Hi, Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. I read this line by the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, and it was, I labor by singing light, not for ambition and bread. And I was thinking, what a riveting idea, the idea of singing light, because that's what we're trying to do, right? In any artistic practice, whether it's dance or music or painting or whatever, we're trying to, in that kind of metaphoric way, to sing light. And relevant to that, there was a great question posed by someone in our community chat about being inspired or not, and also painting perhaps when you're not inspired. And it's a great question because, of course, we're not singing light all the time. So there's a few parts to that question. First, inspiration comes from the root for breath, as in breathing, and that is also linked to the same root for spirit. So finding a way to give expression to our breath, to our spirit, well, that's why it's so important. The poet David Whyte talked about the body filling with dense smoke if we did not give expression to our spirit. Fundamental to this is our own dance of avoidance, or the resistance that we have to push through and start our creative practice. We all deal with it. It's just a given. There's this hurdle to starting, and we all have to navigate that pretty much every time we start to paint. There's things inside of us that say, let's say, oh, no, I really need to take care of this or that, these other things today first, or that doesn't really inspire me that much, or I'm probably not good enough to make that work. We each have our own way of throwing up roadblocks. They're all levels of resistance that we push up against, and obviously we need to learn to push through them, because if you let them stop you, then your creative process is stopped before it's begun. But the important point is every time we do push through them, we discover, like magic, that you then get into a flow and you're engaged and you're fine. The resistance is in the starting. That's the hard part. Once you're in, then it's a lot easier to be engaged and to get into it for the day. I've always liked Chuck Close's line about inspiration is for amateurs. The more experienced you are, the more you just go quickly through your little internal tactical games and get down to work. There are a couple of other ideas about inspiration. One, some things or places inspire us more than others. And we may be unique in what it is that inspires us. But let's say, for example, we're talking plein air painting, for example. Some areas like Provence or the coast of Maine or New Mexico, they're definitely more inspiring to me than, say, the streets around me in Los Angeles. The streets around here, they just don't pull me in the same way. Sometimes, but not consistently. And usually, the best paintings happen, say from life, when something just goes and you're like, oh, wow, will you look at that? Or when you're out taking photographs and you say, oh, look at that. You know you've caught something. You can feel the light, to use Dylan Thomas's expression. And two, and this idea ties into the last one, I think part of finding the places and the things that inspire you, say the times of day, different times of year, specific places, for example, is knowing that finding the image takes about as much time as the painting does, maybe more. So if you don't go out walking around, going on walks, sketching, taking photographs, getting reference materials of the things that inspire you, then when you come to paint, it's like a cook, but there's nothing in the fridge. My experience for landscape, where you're painting the angle of light as much as anything, is you need to go out and get reference ideas or images when you'd like to be relaxing in the morning with your morning coffee, or in the evening when you're just settling in for a glass of wine. You want to make sure part of your artistic practice is the walking around, taking the time to find out what inspires you and to go there and get the best reference so that you've got the raw materials available for your use. Otherwise, you'll just decide, oh, I'm going to paint this morning. And then you find yourself sort of flat-footed, just taking whatever's at hand, something that doesn't really excite you very much. You guess, oh, I guess that'll do. So, as I say, going out and looking for and finding what inspires you is a fundamental part of the artistic practice. It's not an afterthought. Then when you come to paint, you're just overcoming resistance still, of course, but you dive in, and it's way easier than just sort of starting, as I say, flat-footed with something that only vaguely engages you. It's obvious on one hand when you think about it, but might be worth reminding yourself the importance of it when it comes to inspiration and where it comes from, and going out and finding it, either photographic reference, say, or places that really inspire you at different times of the day to paint. And lastly is the idea of quantity over quality and inspiration. There's a story in the book Art and Fear about a ceramics professor that divided the class into two and said to one, just make as many pots as you can this semester. You're being graded on weight. And the other half were told, you're going to make one pot this semester and it should be perfect. So who came up with the best pots? The first group. We know that the expression of the cream, rising to the top, it rises through the medium of the milk, right? You need all that milk for the cream to rise in. The idea being you've got to make lots of work to make good work. If you're hung up on each individual piece as being precious and defining you, then your artistic practice will be a rough road. We're all hard on ourselves, that's we know. But better to make work and move on to the next piece than to overwork and overthink the same piece. Remember, we are singing light. It is play. Play doesn't mean frivolous, doesn't even mean easy, but we do need to remember to breathe.